So hi, I'm Radushi and I will be taking the session on reading comprehensions for IPMAT, and we will delve in, we will understand some tips and tricks which we can use to, tackle those questions better. And, I just want to highlight that these IPMAT UG exams, when we talk about reading comprehensions, they're quite easy because we have like 40 minutes to tackle 45 questions. So whenever passages are made, they are not made to confuse, they are not made to ask you to think a lot and go beyond. They are quite easy if they are well understood, if a certain technique, if all of these things are if all the things are understood properly. So they are quite easy, and we'll just delve in quickly and then we'll understand how can it be done. And I will discuss some tricks which can be used, which can be very, very handy. And I have taken up some examples from the previous year questions as well. So we have the very, very real idea of applying those tips and tricks and applying it in the real examination kind format only. So let's move ahead. So the technique, the concept that I talk of is the STOP technique, and it's very simple, as the words say. So S will stand for something, T and O and P. All of these letters stand for something. And whenever you have an RC passage, you can just think of it quickly. Oh, I have to follow the STOP thing. So what it is. So S is simply, you can just scan all the questions. It takes hardly like 30 seconds, because in IPMAT, you have like 6 questions. If we talk about IPMAT Indore, you have 6 questions per RC in general. So you can just quickly scan through, okay, this is what it is about. Sometimes you will find that a lot of questions would be vocabulary based. A lot of questions could be inference based or main idea based. So basically, you know the monster you are dealing with before delving into the passage. So just quickly scan. Then you can tag the passage. T stands for tagging the passage. So tagging the passage is basically when you are reading. So you read the first paragraph and you felt it's basically sort of checking the vibe. Like, what actually is the vibe? What it is trying to say? It's a lot like checking the vibe check that we call, what it is giving. You'll read a paragraph and you will understand, okay, maybe the author is trying to criticize something. Or you will read the second paragraph and you will say, okay, this is the thing the author is trying to criticize. The vibe is of criticism. Or sometimes you will see the author is trying to list something. The author is trying to present a historical fact. So that sort of a vibe can come from everything you read. You can just tag something. Okay, this feels like a critique, this first paragraph. Oh, the second paragraph, that feels like the author is trying to give examples to support his own point. So that is basically the T of the STOP technique. Now, O. Now, this is a new word also, obliterate. Obliterate means remove completely. To remove something completely is to obliterate. So O is used, you can, mostly obliterate 2 wrong options. You can kill some options, you can understand the scope. So it becomes very easy to tackle just 2 options, because 2 of them can be very, very easily obliterated or removed, which is the O of your STOP technique. And then you have maybe 2 or sometimes even 1 option you are left with. So it's also very, very useful. Then P. Now this is very important. P refers to pick with proof. Now, what does it mean? So, in IPMAT, there is a pattern to questions, and it is a very beautiful thing. It is very beautiful. Now, what happens is mostly what will happen is that your correct answer, suppose there are 4 options, okay, and you could obliterate or remove 2 options, and you're left with the remaining 2, and you have to pick the right answer. Now this P thing helps, which is pick with proof. The right answer would always have a proof in the passage, whatever it is. You can just go back. You can simply go back to the passage and pick that proof. You will be able to point that out. Even sometimes, if it's not direct, there would be some semblance of that proof that, okay, this thing that we are choosing at the right answer, the answer that we are choosing as the right option is present in the passage and it has proof. You will go back and you will be able to find out. So this is sort of very magical also, and this technique works very, very well in IPMAT passages. We'll look at the passages and try to apply it as well. Okay, so now these are some common traps. So whenever any RC question is made, whenever any verbal question is created, whenever the options are created, it is trying to get into the examiner's mindset, sort of a thing. What is the mindset? The mindset while creating options, because 6 questions and every question has to have like 4 options each. Okay, so what could be the mindset? You cannot just give away very clearly visible wrong answers. Suppose you have 4 options, right? And you are asking which color is it. You cannot simply say the color is white, so you cannot give options like red, blue, pink, and white, and you can directly pick white. You make the options and you use some traps. So this is getting into the mindset of the examiner, and I have listed down some very, very common traps. We went through a lot of passages, we understood the pattern, and these are very, very common traps that are used. And if we know them beforehand, we'll be able to understand. And sometimes these traps are very close. Sometimes they feel, oh my God, this must be the right answer because it sounds right, because some trap is working very well. But we have to fight them and we have to kill those traps. Now, what those common traps are? So this is a very common trap, and I mostly call it the red flag as well. So whenever I find this out in a passage, I demonstrate it by making a flag also sometimes. So this is a signal. Whenever very extreme words are used, always, never, only, entirely, completely, fully, these are extreme. When we speak in English, we have 3 degrees, okay? One is normal, another is comparative, the third one is superlative. So when something is superlatively used, like fully, completely, entirely explains, all, words like all, everything, like this explains everything. This passage is talking about the theory of the universe and is explaining everything. That is never possible. So these extreme words are a trap. This extreme language is a trap, and it should be instantly killed. You can just eliminate these options. Sometimes they will have the right answer, but they will use these extreme words. What the author is saying is entirely applicable to the domain of neuroscience. So when you're saying entirely applicable, what the author might be saying might be applicable, but saying that something is entirely applicable, then it gets extreme. And then you need to kill that option. It's a very, very common trap. It's used in many, many exams, but here we are focused on the IPMAT and the UG exam. So yeah, it is used here as well, and we have to make a flag and we have to eliminate this option, or we have to do the O step of the stop process. Topic not in the passage at all. So this I refer as OOS. Whenever I find this option, I simply write OOS. What does that refer to? It means out of scope. There could be an option, the point would feel nice. It would feel, okay, this is a good point. It sounds good. It's somewhat related to the topic, but it would be out of scope. How do you know if it's out of scope? That thing, that particular thing, that specific thing would not be discussed in the passage at all. It might be something related. Suppose if I'm writing a passage on neuroscience and I talk about brain, suppose I talk about the frontal cortex of the brain, but it is not even discussed in the passage and I'm making claims about it in an option, it clearly becomes out of scope. We can simply write O O-S, and we can obliterate. We can remove, instantly kill or remove this option, right? Because we can just go back to the passage and say, oh my God, this thing is not even talked about. It would sound good. The sentence would sound nice also, but it would be out of the scope. Means that topic would not have been discussed. It might be relevant. It might be relevant, but it won't be present in the passage. This is the identity of out of scope. So there is a reason behind the fact that why are these traps so good? Because they sound good. They sound like, oh my God, this is real. This sounds good. But again, you have to be aware of these traps. Now here, this is also a very common trap. Starts true, it starts true, and then it will flip a keyword. So basically a half true trap. There are options, right? And the option could be one part of the sentence, comma, another part of the sentence, full stop. So this is also a common trap, that this part of the sentence would be true according to the passage, and the second part would be false, or it could be out of scope, or it could be red flag, that is extreme. So the second part would not be completely true according to the passage. This can also happen, whereas the first part would be true. Or maybe the second part would be right and the first part may not be. So now this is another trap, half true trap, and this also has to be eliminated or killed. So the difference between these options are that we can instantly remove a red flag. We can instantly remove an out of scope option. We cannot instantly remove the half true option. We have to read it fully to understand that, okay, even though it is half true, it is not full true, and half truth is always false. So this option has to be eliminated. The fourth trap is first side of, however, presented as author's view. So now this is quite, nuanced. What happens is that there are many things in the passage, right? The author is trying to present someone else's views. The author is maybe trying to quote a historical fact. The author is maybe trying to report something. But that something should not be translated into, should not be mistaken as the author's opinion. Author's view is very important. So you cannot pick anything from the passage and say this is the author's view. You cannot do that, because an author does not always present his or her views in the passage. The views might come, the views will come, but everything is not the author's view. Some things are simple facts, some things he or she is trying to criticize, some things he is just stating, some things he is just reporting, some things are history. Everything is not the author's view, and we should not mistake it. That, oh, it is written in the passage, that means it is author's view. Author must believe in this. No. So we can remove this also. We have to kill this option as well. Now, you can quote a line that proves it. Now, this is the redemption from the trap. So we were talking about common traps. Common traps are like, a lot of common traps would be spread by the author. How can you get out from it? You can get out from it, especially in case of IPMAT and the UG exams that we are discussing. You can get out of it if you can quote a line, if you can quote something from the passage that is matching with one of the options. Then you have a proof, and this becomes our answer. So this is the redemption from all these kinds of trap. If you have an option that you can quote from the passage, you can get out of it and it works. So this, now here I want to discuss, after I've given all these ideas about RC passage, and I can confidently say that if we follow the S.T.O.P technique, that if we keep in mind the common traps, we will be able to, guaranteed, we'll be able to solve maximum amount of questions from the RC passages, maximum. There would hardly be any question that would not fall in the criteria that we discussed. So now, of course, I want to talk about the IPMAT full course by Cracku. So we have 200 plus hours of live sessions. So these sessions are extremely interactive. We could have just done videos recorded, but we wanted to interact and we wanted to talk and give a very interactive experience. So that's there. Again, we'll also have recorded videos so they can be referred at your own convenience at any time. Even if you are not feeling that good, you can just open them up, you can listen to them, something gets into your mind. Through osmosis also you can learn. Then of course, practice questions are very, very important, and we have the study room feature where we have like 7,000 plus practice questions. So there won't be much need for many, many additional resources because this repository would work for everyone and it has like everything possible. And then of course, we have 50 plus mock tests for IPMAT, GIPMAT and IMB UG. So most important, nothing more important than mocks when you are giving a competitive exam. And 50 plus mocks is a good number. To give these mocks, you are on the path of excellence in these competitive exams. So that's there. Now quickly, we have our passage, we will read it, we will apply the stop technique that we were talking of, and we will win this passage. And you will actually see how easy it is to solve the questions. They are not at all very, very hard or challenging. So yes, for stop technique, we can first scan the questions. So the question is about a relationship between anxiety and survival. So we know the passage is about anxiety, something related. Then in what way might the relationship between exercise and relief, something like that. So they are getting quite deep. It is like an inference question. Then the question is about how is the information in the passage organized? Is it comparative, if it is presenting something, if it is outlining something? So that is there. Then which of the following statements describe the danger associated with anxiety disorder? So when we read, we know that we have to pay attention to the anxiety disorder part and the danger associated to it. Chiefly concerned with what is like the main purpose of the passage? So very generic. Then which of the following statements is correct? So basically we have to read the passage. So it is quite in depth. It is not very, very direct. It has inference questions also. It has main idea questions also. And one question we know it's about anxiety disorder. So that is there. Now we can move towards solving the passage. Let's quickly get into it. So let's quickly get into it. And I promise, while we read, sometimes, this might happen. We might not know all the words, and that's okay. We just have to understand the vibe, what the general vibe is, what the author is trying to say. So let's delve in. The first psychotherapy treatment that was shown to be effective was exposure therapy, which essentially encourages people in a graded way to go into their feared situation and stay in them. Okay, so this is the second part. So here, yeah, now this is how the passage begins. Anxiety is an emotion that all people experience from time to time, and we do that for good reasons. So anxiety is an emotion that all the people experience. It's not particular to some people, and it has good reasons also. How? You might be like, oh my God, anxiety is so bad. How is the passage claiming that it is happening for good reasons? Let's read and understand. It has been built into us. We have inherited it from our evolutionary past because in general, anxiety has a survival function. Now that's the idea. Why is it said that it is for good reason? Because it has a survival function. It kicks in whenever we sense danger. So good reason is that it kicks in whenever we sense danger. Whenever there is danger, whenever we sense danger, anxiety kicks in. And that is why it is said to happen for a good reason. We freeze, we devote all of our attention to the danger, and our bodies react with a big release of adrenaline. So, what happens when we sense danger? We freeze. Our entire attention goes into, tackling the danger. And this hormone is released, adrenaline, an increase in blood flow to the muscles, getting us ready to run as fast or fight as fiercely as we might. So we are talking about fight and flight response of anxiety. So anxiety is good in the sense whenever danger comes, it is basically allocating all our attention and the proper resources of the body into tackling the danger. It is helping us to fight. It is helping us to flight also. It is helping us analyze that quickly. Anxiety also help us to focus on things when we have deadlines, and if someone is driving too fast when we cross the road, it helps us to jump out of the way quickly. So what do you think is responsible for these things? When you have a deadline, when you have to submit an assignment, you know you are not done with it, and then this feeling of anxiety kicks in and it helps us meet the deadlines. Or when you're sitting in a car and the driver is driving too fast, then anxiety kicks in because you sense you are in danger, right? And then you can take some actions to protect yourself. That is why anxiety is good, because it is enabling us to take actions to protect ourselves. That is there. So there is nothing wrong with anxiety in general. So when we talk about anxiety, it's function that we are talking of. It is to protect us. There's nothing wrong with the concept of anxiety in general. And in fact, we would have difficulties if we did not experience it to some extent. To experience anxiety to some extent is sort of important, because we will face difficulties if we do not experience it at all. However, it can get problematic. Now begins the problem. If the danger is imagined rather than real. Now, when is anxiety a problem? When does anxiety become a problem? When the danger that we are talking of. So danger is of two types. One would be a real danger. Another danger could be imaginary. So then anxiety becomes like a problem when the danger is imaginary, or it is something that is exaggerated. Exaggerated means it is shown to be more than what it actually is. Maybe the danger is very little danger. The danger is maybe just touching a hot cup of tea, but it is exaggerated into, oh my god, I will burn. So that in those cases, particularly if the perceived danger is out of proportion to the real danger and it is persistent and disabling. Persistent, disabling, and out of proportion. So if the danger is these things, like suppose the real danger is only this much, as I gave the teacup example, and it is, blown out of proportion. Oh my God, what will happen if you touch the teacup? And it is persistent also, that you are constantly feeling that. So when it is out of proportion, when it is persistent, then it is a problem. Then there is the danger of an anxiety disorder. So out of proportion plus persistent. If the danger becomes like that, imagined danger, then we have the risk of having an anxiety disorder. So, while we are reading, like I am reading, you are reading with me, we can test the vibe of the situation, right? The author, what is the vibe? The author is trying to pick a common belief that anxiety is supposed to be like that, but it is actually good. And when does it become bad? So author is, trying to present a situation here, trying to explain it. Now, scientists are looking at what role genes play in the development of these disorders. Now, scientists are looking at the role of gene in what disorder? In anxiety disorder. And are also investigating the effects of environmental factors such as pollution, physical and psychological stress, and diet. So the scientists are trying to study the role of genes and environmental factors in the development of the anxiety disorders. Several parts of the brain are key actors in the production of fear and anxiety. Using brain imaging technology and neurochemical techniques, scientists have discovered that the amygdala plays a significant role in most anxiety disorders. So through this paragraph, the author is basically trying to say that the scientists are trying to study these disorders. They have figured out through various techniques that amygdala is the portion that plays the most significant role in anxiety disorders. By learning more about how the brain creates fear and anxiety, scientists may be able to devise better treatments for these disorders. So basically, if we learn more about how the brain is creating anxiety, because we know anxiety is happening when the danger is blown out of proportion or when the danger is persistent. So we are basically trying to study that why are these things happening, and when we try to study the why and the how of the situation, then we will be able to devise the treatments for them, right? Okay. Now, the first psychotherapy, now we are coming to talk about the treatments. The author described about what anxiety is, now the treatments. Anxiety disorder. Anxiety is not bad. That the author made clear that, oh my God, just get it clear that anxiety is not bad. Anxiety disorder, when it is blown out of proportion and that, then it becomes bad. So the first psychotherapy treatment that was shown to be effective was exposure therapy, which essentially encourages people in a graded way. Graded way means, it's not given all at one time. Graded means little by little, little by little. In, steps, something is being administered or something is being given to you in steps. In a graded way, to go into their feared situation and stay in them for as long as they can and build their confidence that way. So this is exposure therapy. As the name suggests, people are being exposed to their fears. Scientists are saying, face your fears in a graded way and try to sit with them, and that way you will be able to build your confidence. So this is one treatment. Another is a group cognitive behavioral therapy or talking therapy that helps people to understand the link between negative thoughts and mood and how altering their behavior can enable them to manage anxiety and feel in control. So another treatment method is a behavior therapy where the therapists make people understand that there is a link between thinking negatively and your mood. These two things are linked together, and you have to understand the link, and if you can change your behavior, then you will be able to manage your anxiety better. So it is more like a talk therapy, a talking therapy. One was exposure, another is sort of a talking therapy, where you are making people understand something. There are, of course, drugs that can help people with anxiety. So sometimes, when you understand the vibe of the passage, in your mind only try to read with the tone of it. So there are, of course, drugs that can help people with anxiety, but medication will not cure an anxiety disorder. It can only help to keep it under control while the person receives psychotherapy. So no drug is going to cure the disorder. The disorder would be cured by psychotherapy, but what drugs can do is to keep the disorder under control. There is plenty of evidence that exercise can help with anxiety problems. When stress affects the brain, while its many nerve connections, the rest of the body feels the impact as well. So now another thing that can help an anxiety disorder is exercise. Exercise and other physical activity produce endorphins, which are chemicals in the brain that act as natural painkillers as well. Additionally, getting physically tired can help people fall asleep faster and have deeper, more relaxing sleep. So many ways. There are so many ways in which exercise is helping. So exercise is helping because it releases endorphins, they act as painkillers. It helps because it tires you out. So when you are tired, you sleep faster and you sleep better. As many people suffering from anxiety have problems with insomnia, just the ability to get a good night's rest can change their perspectives. So anxiety is related with insomnia also. And if you can get good sleep, which you can get by, so there is a link between exercise, and exercise would make you tired. So you would get a good sleep, and a good sleep would help in anxiety disorder. So there are many ways in which good sleep helps in dealing with anxiety disorder. So insomnia, even if we do not know the meaning of insomnia, we can guess that it is somewhat related to sleeping problems only. So that's how the vibe, and that's how making connections help us, right? So insomnia is the inability to fall asleep. Anxiety is normal but highly subjective human emotion. So now the author is concluding. Now we are sure that, oh, the vibe that we were trying to understand is correct, that the author is saying that anxiety is not abnormal. Anxiety disorder is abnormal when the fears are blown out of proportion and they are persistent. So it is subjective. Subjective human emotion means anything subjective means it is different for you, it is different for me. I like math, you don't like math. So subjective, it's the same subject, right? It's not just about subjects. I like the color pink. My friend does not. My friend hates it. So it's a very subjective opinion, right? While normal anxiety serves a beneficial and adaptive purpose, so yes, again, the author is reiterating or repeating the point he or she began with, that anxiety, normal anxiety, is absolutely important also, serves an important purpose. It can also become the cause of tremendous suffering for millions of people. How? When it becomes like a disorder. It is important that people recognize excessive anxiety in themselves at the earliest, as treatment can be very successful. So when you can recognize excessive anxiety, when you can differentiate that, okay, this is not normal, then the treatment can be successful. Leaving it untreated can be a misery. So the author is also trying to, the entire second part was about treatments and what can work. So realizing that it might be a disorder, realizing that anxiety is, getting a little out of hand, I'm having too much of it, can help you access the treatments, and then it can work for you very nicely. And if it is left untreated, it can be a source of a lot of misery. So that is also a fact. Now we can move on to the questions, and see what we have studied, the S.T.O.P technique, the elimination, whether these things work or not. So proof of concept. Which of the following best indicates the relationship between anxiety and survival? So we talked about the relationship between anxiety and survival initially also, right? Despite being inherited from our evolutionary past, anxiety frequently undermines survival as it is not an integral part of human nature. So what we read? We remember reading that anxiety and survival, they have a relationship, and they are important for each other. Anxiety is helping survival. This much we remember. We can always go back and refer to it also, right? That anxiety has a survival function. It kicks in when we sense danger. Yes? So, again, these are the best kinds of questions because you can simply go back to them. You can follow the T part of the S.T.O.P technique, that you can simply pick out the portion from the passage. So, this is definitely wrong. Anxiety is part of our evolutionary past, yet has limited relevance now as it does not significantly impact our chances of survival. Has the author ever said that? This again is the trap where half of it is true, that anxiety is a part of our evolutionary past. True, it is. But it has limited relevance today. Where did the author say that it is not important today? It is not relevant today. We should remove anxiety. The author is saying anxiety disorder is bad. You know, in very layman terms, the author is saying anxiety good, anxiety disorder bad. That's it. So this is again wrong. Anxiety is ingrained within us due to our evolutionary heritage. True, right? Because of our evolution, because of need to sense the danger, it is there in us. And generally serves to promote survival. Very nice sounding option, very true also, that anxiety is helping survival, and anxiety is something that we all have. It is ingrained in us. Anxiety, an intrinsic part of human nature, often disrupts our ability to thrive by acting as an impediment to survival. Anxiety is not an impediment to survival. Anxiety helps survival. Anxiety disorder can be an impediment. That can be a challenge. So we have to keep that main point of the passage in mind. The author is saying anxiety is not bad. Anxiety disorder is. So C is the balanced, good choice. We can also go back and say that yes, anxiety helps survival. That is the basic relationship. Next question now. In what way might the relationship between exercise or physical activity and anxiety relief suggest a potential solution for individuals with anxiety disorders? So recently only we read the relationship between exercising and anxiety relief. It helps us in sleep. It can tire us out. It releases endorphins, which act as natural painkillers, right? So this is also basically an easy question. Why? Because S.T.O.P. You can simply do the P part. You can simply go back to the passage and refer to it. So we can simply go back, even if we don't, suppose we forgot. Say, like, you should try to remember. The T or the tag part is that, you should try to remember the basics of it. But even if you don't, you will know, you can go back. So exercise can help with anxiety problem. This whole paragraph is talking about that, right? So we can always go back. Now let's look at the options. Physical activity serves as a temporary distraction from anxiety, but its long-term effects remain unclear. So temporary distraction, long-term effects, were these terms discussed? No, right? They are quite out of scope. OOS, they are quite like something that the author did not even claim. They sound posh, they sound okay, but it's not a part of the passage. Temporary or long-term effects, they were not discussed. So we can cancel it out, kill. Exercise-induced endorphins facilitate cognitive behavioral therapy's effectiveness. Now, it is linking endorphins with cognitive behavioral therapy. Was the link ever made? Behavioral therapy was a different treatment which was talked of here in this paragraph. This is a completely different thing. Endorphins work as painkillers. This is what it is said. The link between these two is not made. you cannot pick out any two things from the passage randomly and say they are related. This is also a trap. This is misquoting. So kill. Elimination trap. By that you can kill, right? Exercise may directly target the amygdala to reduce anxiety symptoms. Now again, amygdala was discussed. Exercise helps, that was discussed. But were these two things related? Were amygdala and exercise related? No, right? Amygdala was discussed when? That anxiety disorder, amygdala plays a big role in understanding the disorder. But was the relationship between exercise and amygdala made? No, you can simply go back to the paragraph and recheck. So it was never made. Wrong. So with endorphins it was made, with sleep it was made, with painkillers it was made. Physical activity could enhance sleep quality, indirectly lessening anxiety symptoms. This relationship was made, that it will help in sleeping, and then if you can sleep better, it would definitely help you in your anxiety disorder. So D is the right choice. Next question. So we can all see how STOP is always working for us. In the passage, the information about anxiety treatments is organized in which of the following ways? So this is like a general, this is basically a general vibe question. What was the vibe of it? How was the author presenting it, man? So information about anxiety treatments, how was the author presenting it? So we can just also go back here and recheck the vibe if we don't remember. So the author is listing them out, and the author is telling that there are many treatments which can work, so on and so forth. By comparing different types of disorders, only one disorder is being talked of. Anxiety disorder, what comparison? Nothing. Completely unrelated. And the question is about treatment. You are answering about disorder. What is this? Kill. Question is something else, your option is something else. By presenting contrasting viewpoints on the subjects. What contrasting? A contrasting viewpoint would be when the author is presenting somebody else's viewpoints. But here the author is simply listing out the treatments that, oh guys, one treatment is psychotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, exposure therapy, exercise. So he is basically listing, he or she. So again, this is not related because contrasting is out of scope. The author is not contrasting anything. By outlining the historical development of anxiety treatments. So, okay, development. First of all, the issue here is historical and development. How do we know it is historical? How do we know it is in chronology? How do we know the author was talking about, oh guys, this has been the history of anxiety treatments? No, the author is simply listing the treatments. Suppose a teacher is simply taking the attendance. The teacher is not saying that this guy is good in studies, this guy is not. So this is again wrong. By discussing various treatment options and their effectiveness. Now this seems right, that he is basically listing out and discussing that this is a treatment option, this is how it is, and this is how effective it can be, this is how it can help. Simple and sober, T is right. Now, based on the information in the passage, which of the following statements best describes the potential danger for what? With anxiety disorder. What is the danger associated with it? It is always indicative of an imagined danger rather than a real one. It is right only, na, this option, but something is wrong. It is a red flag. Why? Always. You can never make claims like that. That always indicative. No, it is indicative of imagined danger. Always indicative, extreme. Immediate kill. Don't waste your time overthinking. It is characterized by a persistent and exaggerated perception of danger. Exactly what the passage talked of. Persistent also, that it is sometimes, making designs can help you remember. Persistent, goes on. exaggerated. Danger is this, you are here. That's what we made a diagram of also. So this is right, persistent and exaggerated. And here also we can go back. We can go back to the first two paragraphs and find this. It occurs when the perceived danger is proportionate to the real danger. This is basically opposite of what the passage is saying. Perceived danger, when perceived danger is much larger. This is perceived, this is real. Then it happens. So this is ulta, opposite. It primarily arises from genetic factors rather than environmental influences. Scientists were studying these things. But did the scientist or the author ever make this claim that they are responsible, genetic factors are responsible more than environmental? No, they themselves don't know yet. They are studying them. Studying something does not mean that you can make claims about it. So this is wrong. And mostly the right option is always, a balanced option. B is the right choice. Now the passage is chiefly concerned with what? Investigating the physiological benefits of exercise on anxiety management. It is investigating that there are benefits, but chiefly, is that the only concern? Out of 8 paragraphs, this was just one para. This is narrowing the scope. This is called making the scope narrow. Like the scope is wide and you are picking one specific part and saying that this is the fact. So, wrong. Evaluating the effectiveness of psychotherapy and medication in treating anxiety. So, is that the primary concern? This is 2 paras out of the whole thing. So, this is again narrow, same issue, kill, immediate. Understanding the complex interplay between genetic and environmental factors in anxiety disorder. So, is the passage all about understanding genetic and environment? It was just said in one line that the scientists are trying to study that. Nothing was even written about genetic and environmental factors. So this is again wrong. This is not even discussed in detail. Exploring the multifaceted nature of anxiety and its adaptive functions. This is true. Adaptive functions, that how it is important also. Multifaceted nature means when it is exaggerated, it can be harmful also. So multifaceted means multiple faces or many dimensions of anxiety are being discussed. So D is the balanced and the right choice. Other also can go by elimination. Based on the information in the passage, which one of the following statements is correct? Let's see. True, false we have to play. Regular exercise does little to alleviate anxiety symptoms and improve sleep. Was it mentioned that, okay, it helps, but it helps little? Nothing like little was mentioned, so false. Exposure therapy encourages individuals to face their feared situations gradually. True. Because we mentioned also in our notes, graded manner. They make them face their situations in a graded manner, which is like facing them gradually, step by step. So we can also again, P part of S.T.O.P would work everywhere as we discussed, especially in IPMAT and UG. We can always go back and we can always pick this line. I can show you also gradually or graded manner. So in the paragraph, if we go back here, encourages people in a graded way to go into their feared situation. Pick. Even if you do not know the meaning of graded, you can guess the meaning also. Cognitive behavior therapy is the most preferred treatment. Again, red flag, most preferred. So, immediate kill. Don't waste time in elimination. You know the technique, you know S.T.O.P, you know the elimination traps, just kill it. Medication is the first line therapy and primary cure. Again, red flag first of all, because primary cure, no such claim is made. First line therapy, out of scope. These things are not discussed. So, kill. B becomes the right choice. through all our techniques. So here we saw how all our techniques work, and they will always work almost. So here I wanted to talk about the Cracku IPMAT study room. So like you have your study rooms at homes. So it is a digital study room for you. And how can you reach it? And in the study room, you will have all these quant and verbal rush. You can maintain your streaks of solving questions. We have daily targets where you have 5 questions for each section, and then you have a streak exactly like you do in Snapchat. You have a leaderboard, we have 7,000 plus questions that was discussed, and how to reach it. Nothing is complicated. Just simply do a Google search, right? Cracku IPMAT study room, like even a layman can do. So simple search, and it's like your digital study room. Very enjoyable interface also. Very convenient. You don't have to go through a lot of books and resources. Something at one place. You know, preparation should always be like focused. You try to do multiple sources, does not help. So yes, let's move on. Now, so recently we have observed that these conversation type questions also show up, right? Now, what are these questions and how we can solve them? They are a part of RC only. We don't have to overcomplicate things. Our techniques of S.T.O.P and elimination work here also. So there's no issue to stress about it. Oh my God, what a new format. What am I supposed to do? It is RC only. No issue. Just the theme is conversation. 2 people are talking. So nothing to worry. It is an RC. Our same techniques are going to work. Let's delve in. So the first person, there are 2 people having a conversation. The first person is Lucia Rahili, and she is the global director for the McKinsey podcast. So she is the director of a podcast. So that's clear that she would ask the questions. Another person is Chris Bradley, who will be responding to Lucia. He is the director of McKinsey Global Institute. So basically, she'll be asking, he'll be answering. Now, Lucia is asking something, right? What is she asking? Today, we are talking about the next big arenas of competition, about the industries that will matter most in the global business landscape. So here she is talking about something about arenas of competition. And how do you know what does she mean? It can mean many things. An arena of competition can be a sport competition also. How do we know what it means? It is, if a word is given and a comma is there, and then a comma is followed by an explanation. So that is mostly the explanation of what it means. So arenas of competition means about the industries that will matter most in the global business landscape. So arenas of competition basically means most important business industries globally, right? Something like that it means. What do we mean when we use this term? So she is asking Chris that what do you mean when you use this term? So Chris says, if I go back and look at the top 10 companies in 2005, they were in traditional industries such as oil, gas, retail, industrials, and pharmaceuticals. So Chris is saying that when he goes back into time, he finds that the top 10 companies globally were in the traditional industry. The traditional industries were oil, gas, retail, etc. The average company was worth about $250 billion. If I advance the clock forward to 2020, now talking about 2020, 9 in 10 of those companies have been replaced. So Chris is saying in 2005, top 10 companies were there, top 10 companies, and they were all doing traditional businesses. Now, when we talk about 2020, Like if we talk about 2020, 9 of these top 10 companies are replaced. And by whom? Let's see. They are replaced and by companies that are 8 times bigger than the old guards. Now, this replacement is 8 times, 8x bigger than the old ones. The old guards are who? The old companies that are being talked of, right? And this new batch of companies comes from these new arenas of competitive sectors. So one thing we forgot to do about our stop technique, we forgot to scan the question. So Muggles refer to what? It is like vocabulary. Dynamism, vocabulary sort of question. Arenas, we were discussing vocabulary. Shuffle rate does not measure, again related to vocabulary, what a thing does or does not do. And then we have summary, and then we have again wizard. So mostly we have vocabulary questions and we can keep those things in mind while reading. So we can have the word arenas in mind, we can have muggles, you can just note it down in your rough sheet in exam. So muggles, arena, we had wizard that was being asked, we were asked about shuffle rate. These things would come here, right? That is why they were asked. So these were some of the things that were asked. We'll just keep them in mind. And this new batch of companies comes from these new arenas of competitive sector. So new arenas, new domains of business. In fact, they are so different that we have a nickname for them. So they have a nickname. If you are a fan of Harry Potter, it's Wizards versus Muggles. So Wizard versus Muggles, this is the nickname. Anybody who knows Harry Potter would be able to guess, but not everybody knows, right? So the passage will tell us. Arena industries are wizardish. So arena industries are these new industries that are being referred to. They are wizardish. We found that there is a set of industries that play by very different set of economic rules and get very different results, while the rest, the muggles, even though they run the world, finance the world and energize the world, play by a more traditional set of economic rules. So here, the wizards and the muggles are contrasted by what? They follow different economic rules, plus they play by different rules and they get different results. Meanwhile, the muggles follow the traditional economic rules. So their difference is by the sort of economic rules they are following. And why are we paying attention so much to wizard and muggles? Why? Because we scanned. We know that their meaning was being asked. That is why. Then Lucia has another question. Could we put a finer point on what is novel? Novel means new, not the novel that we read, or different about the lens that you apply to determine what's a wizard and what's a muggle. So she's saying, can you further explain the difference between wizard and muggle and how do you differentiate them? Then Chris says, wizards are defined by growth and dynamism. So dynamism was also asked, right? So again, difference between wizard and muggle. So wizards are defined by growth and dynamism. We looked at where value is flowing and the places where value is moving. And where is the value flowing? What we see is that the set of wizards, which represent about 10% of the industries, hog 45% of the growth in market cap. So these wizards, what we define as, suppose this is the industry and they occupy only 10%. This is the, like they are 10% part of the industry. But But when we talk about the growth, this 10% is hogging like 45% of growth. So little space it is taking and so much growth it is showing. But there's another dimension or axis too, which is dynamism. Now, what is dynamism? They are explaining. And please pay attention to it because it was asked, we scanned it. That is measured by a new metric we have come up with called the shuffle rate. Now, shuffle rate was also asked. So this person is, Chris is saying that dynamism is measured by shuffle rate. How much does the bottom move to the top? Now, this is the shuffle rate. That how much? Like suppose there are industries, 10 industries. So how much the bottom industries are moving to the top? How much this change is happening? That is known as the shuffle rate, which defines the dynamism, that how rapidly this change is happening. This bottom is moving to the top, right? It turns out that in this set of wizardish industries or arenas, the shuffle rate is much higher than it is in the traditional industries. That means shuffle rate is higher means more quickly and in more numbers, the small companies are able to move to the top. If these companies come under the wizard part, okay? This wizard would have big companies, small companies, medium-sized companies. But if we talk about the shuffle rate of these wizards, if we talk about how quickly they are able to move to the top, how quickly can a small company become big here? How quickly can small wizard company become big? So it becomes very quickly, it can become big as compared to traditional industries. So that is also one of the big differences, that they can become from small to big much faster than traditional ones. So this is what we know. Then Lucy asks, so where are we seeing the most profit? Chris says, the economic profit, which is the profit you make minus the cost of the capital you employ, is in the wizard industry. So economic profit is what? Basically, profit is what? Cost price minus selling price. It is basically what profit you are making after subtracting the cost that you are putting in. So Chris is saying that profit is more in wizard industries. It is where R&D happens. They are 2 times more R&D intensive. So a lot of R&D means research and development. So these wizard industries are very R&D focused. So a lot of R&D is happening, and that is why they are showing a lot of economic profit. They are big stars, the nebulae where new business is born. So these wizard industries are the new stars or the nebulae, big stars. And here a lot of new companies are being born. Let's delve into the questions now. Muggles refer to the industries. So we have an idea of Muggles. Muggles is associated with one word very popularly, traditional. Traditional industries were called Muggles. The oil and natural gas, the retail industry. So these were the Muggles. And we can just see, operate under traditional economic principles. First option only right. True. Are primarily focused on technological innovation? No, not at all. This was not even discussed, out of scope also. Are characterized by rapid and frequent change? Opposite. These were the wizard ones, that they can change rapidly. So no. Exhibit high levels of market capitalization growth? Wrong. The wizard ones were showing high levels of market capitalization. Sometimes making figures help us a lot. Like this figure I was making, no? Only 10% they capture. But when we talk about the growth in market capitalization, they capture 45% of it. So this was for wizard, not for Muggles. Muggles, traditional economic principles. That was the main difference also we first noted here. traditional economic rules are followed by the Muggles. So here, how did we solve it? We remembered also, but scanning also helped here, but stop always helps. We basically were able to go back and pick from the passage only. So, yes. In the context of the conversation, dynamism. Now, dynamism that was discussed, it is related to what? The never-changing reliance on established and unchanging business. So, dynamism was related to the wizards, right? And then dynamism was related to the shuffle rate that we discussed because we were making notes. So this is not related. Never changing reliance, this is not even discussed. This is quite out of scope also. We don't know anything about it. The stability and predictability of traditional businesses, wrong. Why? Because it is not about, dynamism is not related to traditional businesses. It is related to the wizards, not the Muggles. That much we know. The rapid and frequent changes in leadership and market position within an industry. This could be, right? The rapid and frequent changes within an industry. That is the shuffle rate also, that the bottom companies can come to the top. The bottom can come to the top quickly. So dynamism is related to frequent and rapid changes, and it is related to the wizard companies. The slow gradual growth, absolutely wrong. Anything slow, unrelated to dynamism. So we have the answer. Next, arenas of competitions refer to what? Arenas of competition were basically related to the companies that are there. So government regulations that control business, first of all, they were not even discussed. So out of scope, eliminated, kill. Broad categories of industries where companies engage in competitive activities. Yes, it was defined also. So B is the right choice. And we can also use the S.T.O.P technique and pick. Physical locations where businesses compete, this was not discussed. Eliminated through OOS, kill. Specific companies that are considered to be powerful competitors. So it is not about specific companies, and it is not about competing with each other. It was about all the industries where companies are engaging in competitive activities. Here the issue is, this was narrowing the scope. Narrow. It was just saying specific companies, but anybody is welcome, right? The traditional ones, the new ones. So this is wrong. Specific word is wrong here. One word, half true or something like that. So B becomes the right choice. Which of the following does shuffle rate not measure? So one thing we know, that the passage does not tell us what does shuffle rate measure. The passage simply tells us through diagrams. Suppose that is why making some, sketches and diagrams are very important. Shuffle rate was basically telling us, suppose it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So this is the bottom company. How quickly the bottom one can come at the bottom ones can reach the top. That is about the shuffle rate. So volatility of market leadership. Does shuffle tell that? Yes. Volatility means how quickly the leaders, how exposed the leaders are to changes. So yes, it measures that. We have to answer not measured. Overall profitability of traditional industries. Does shuffle rate talk about profit at all? Shuffle rate is basically about relative changes. It is about changes in position of companies. It is not about profit. Profit is not a dimension. So this is the right option, as shuffle rate is not at all related to profit. Relative change, yes, relative change is right. Churn within the area, see how many are, losing their market share, how many are gaining, so stuff like that. So again, competition, churning, relative changes in the competitive landscape, that all is shuffle rate. Shuffle rate is not related to profitability. B becomes the right choice. Which of the following best and correctly summarizes the main idea? Let's see. Newer dynamic industry termed wizards are experiencing significantly greater growth and profit compared to traditional industries. So yes, this is sort of true that new industries which the author is calling, Chris was calling as wizards, they are experiencing a lot of growth. This could be true. Let's look at other options and then finally decide, because sometimes we might have a better choice. The global economy is shifting back towards traditional industries. Absolutely opposite. Economy is moving towards dynamism. Traditional industries are consistently more profitable. No, this is opposite. This information is simply the opposite. They are not more profitable. In fact, the growth of new wizard industries are more. So this is also wrong. These two are opposites only. The term wizard and muggle are used to describe magical elements of business success. When did we talk about magical elements? It was not discussed. It's simply out of scope. There's no element of business success. So A, as we decided before also, is the best choice, that these new things are coming up. These wizard thingies are coming up. That's the general vibe. They are growing very rapidly and the landscape is changed. So A. Last question. Wizard industries are characterized by what? So we read they were characterized by growth and dynamism, stuff like that. So let's see. A reliance on traditional economic rules? Absolutely opposite. They had newer economic rules, different results. So that was the first difference that we pointed out while we were making notes. So stop technique can be used here, right? A higher concentration of economic profit and research and development? Yes, sir, yes, it was there. We can simply go back and see. So R&D we talked of, right? Minus the cost, you employ the economic profit is more in wizard industry, and R&D happens 2 times more R&D incentive, and that is why they are the big stars. So more profit and R&D. The last paragraph was talking about this. That much we can remember. We can simply go back and choose. So B is the right choice. Let's look at other options also. Lower research and development spending? Opposite. A slower rate of market capitalization? Wrong. Their rate of market capitalization was much high. We made in this diagram, right? 45%. So, yes, B is the right choice, and simply by going back we can guess. So, through all these examples, we could see that our technique always works. We learned how to eliminate, we learned how to kill options, and the most important thing that we learned is that these questions are very easy. You can literally target getting full marks in RC. They are very easy. You can use all these methods and you can apply them. Sometimes it was so easy to eliminate. We did not have to use the elimination tricks also. Like here, they are simply saying the opposite thing. Opposite, opposite, opposite. I'm a girl. If all options are indicating towards me being a boy, we can simply kill them. So some things are so easy also. Many options are directly opposite. You don't even have to apply much brain. So yes, we just know it is very easy. We know what we studied works. Now we will practice as much as possible to at least target full marks in these RCs and obviously other parts as well. But today, love of our lives is RCs, so we are focused on that. So daily targets, beautiful feature. I discussed it before also, that you can maintain the streak, and it's a very nice feeling. Basically, you realize, what would I do, if I maintain a streak? It's a very motivating thing. You feel closer to your goal, and also the anxiety that we talked of reduces because you know you are working towards it in a structured manner. And of course, if you complete the 50-day streak, you get a t-shirt. and it is just a t-shirt, right? But that would always remind you that you did something remarkable. So thank you, and I hope I see you all again very soon, and all the best for everything.